All right, so this week I think we have a couple of things going on in the one of the worlds that exists amongst other worlds. The concept of is mishpatim really a concept? Perhaps, and also the concept of Shavuot. Somebody said somewhere that it's the least celebrated holiday in all of Judaism or Chabadism, or if you think about things, or Hasidism. And probably the reasons why is because it revolves around the most eventful moment in all of Jewish history. And that event has been retold, told, and retold over and over again. In other words, what do you know about Shavuot? Let me tell you what Shavuot isn't. Shavuot is not a made up story for the sake of survival. It isn't even a story that is transmitted from one generation to another, that hopefully some people somewhere in the genetic line will remember that Hashem gave Moshe and Aaron, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Ten Commandments at 40 days and 39 nights at Mount Sinai. And then the golden calf and Aaron a Cohen coming along and saying, what did Moshe, our teacher, teach us? And was all the Torah actually given to Moshe at the moment of inception? And the answer is yes. The Torah was revealed over time, and more things are actually being revealed as time progresses. Believe it or not, there is a beginning, and there is another beginning, most likely. So there are various theories and layers of theories that are intertwined and interconnected within the concept of the Torah, the five laws of the five books of Moshe, Psalms, the Proverbs, the prophets, things of that sort, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Gemara, the sages, the rabbinical sayings, the various rules and regulations, the discussions. Something I'd like to bring up that was relatively fascinating from the Parshat Mishpatim is mostly ancient version of civil and tort law, and obviously people in the modern era would have various opinions of things. But there's a couple of interesting things around the protection of property, and what do you do if your friend and his adversary are going at it, or having a discussion about things that is potentially unresolved. The Torah teaches about what to do, generalistically speaking, in the Stone edition of the Torah. Various simple versions of earlier versions of employer and employee and employer of an employer as rights, basically employee rights, so on and so forth. Various protections that one should deserve in a civilized society, and so on and so forth. So it's rather important. It's an important section in the Torah. It's an important parsha for the dealings, because the Ten Commandments that Moshe, according to the simple version, received, and all the other things at Sinai. Five of the laws, first five, deal with Hashem and human, and the human as it exists, both the Gentile and the Jew, and the other five of the laws were for relationships between human and human, both Gentile and Jew. And the 70 elders that were sitting at the foot of Mount Sinai, the various instructions that were given to Moshe and Aaron at the quote unquote at the top, so to speak, and then the various processes that were given to the 70 elders at the foot of Mount Sinai, so on and so forth, for the various tribes, nations, and so forth. Now that is a story, and that is relative to the Avrahamic, one could say monotheism, where the origination is founded and rooted, pun intended, in Abraham, Yitzhak, Avraham, Yaakov, and Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And there are a plethora of other belief systems, worldviews, and things that other people, the world over, have realized. There's also revelations in other worlds, and perhaps Balaam and Balak, because there was another prophet that existed, Balaam and Balak, that some could say was a greater level of Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu would do, quote unquote, Torah black belt combat, on occasion, depending on the role their level amongst the world that they found themselves in. In other words, there's the anyways, it's I could go on and on and on, but anyways, this is the holiday of Shavuot is the 49th or 50th, 51 days of meager celebration, depending on various people's interpretation. What was given at Sinai, perhaps something, perhaps nothing. What was the moment when there was nothing? What was the moment when there was something? And the microcosms and seconds and microseconds and so on and so forth between nothing being nothing and nothing being something. That moment where the initial creation story was basically began in motion, so to speak. And what happened just before that in the primordial ooze or something? And does that count? What is that? Does that count for something? So anyways, sometimes nothing is actually nothing, and nothing is almost something, and then nothing is more of something, and then the story begins, and so on and so forth. And the Mishpat team also discusses various angels, and I added something into my own interpretation into the concept of people's, one could say they're guardian angels. And often people say they have a set number of guardian angels that exist, but there are layers to the concept of guardian angels. In other words, it's kind of to a certain degree relative to the world or role that one has within the context of their life. In other words, if you're somewhere and, depending on finances, some people have different guardian angels that they resonate with more, one could say, based on what they're doing in the world. And if they have nothing or only a little bit of something, they may have a different kind of guardian angels. So in other words, the concept of guardian angels is, one could say, relative to multiplicity of scenarios. I'm going to use the word at times, situations, circumstances, and leverage, so on and so forth. So, in other words, the Stone edition of the Parshat Mishpatim is a simplistic version. It gives a generalized overview of some things. I also find relatively interesting the foundation of something that Rashi comments about that was completely accurate, most likely for Rashi and Rashi's opinion. The first person, so to speak, that was given, one could say, credence to what Rashi articulated. But Mizrahi comes along post facto and makes a slight modification to that based on for the Mizrahis. In other words, it was completely accurate for Rashi at the time. The same rule or whatever was slightly inaccurate for the Mizrahis and had to be slightly interpreted differently. Same law, a slight different interpretation of things depending on the tribe, nation, even in the context of the tribe itself. So anyways, until next time, and happy Shavuot.